Hey y'all, my name's Megan. I'm a homeschool mom of two, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are going to chew the fat on an issue that has been weighing heavily on my heart as of late, and I bet you at some point in time it has given you trouble as well, and that is, of course, the eternal, the everlasting struggle to gain the cooperation of our children, right? You guys have this problem as well? Please say yes. Actually, I know the answer is yes. Because as parents, we have made the decision to home educate our kiddos. So therefore, our children have now become our students. And sometimes we ask them to do things and they just give us grief. And I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that however you define school in your home, that you have at some point in time dealt with this particular little problem. I love the phrasing of gaining our children's cooperation because it suggests that as parents, we're actually going to work to earn their participation, right? We are going to prove to our children that coming to the table is worthy endeavor. Because I know that as a parent and also as someone who thinks about the educational philosophy a lot, I struggle with the concept that I'm pushing through my child's consent. That by asking them, forcing them, cajoling them, threatening them to participate is really sending a bad signal about what it is for them to be autonomous over themselves as individuals. So let's find some ways to gain our children's cooperation together. Now, having experience as a public school teacher, I am here to let you know that gaining the cooperation of your kiddos at home or gaining the cooperation of students in a classroom can be equally difficult. So don't let yourself get swept up into some daydream that in a classroom setting, your child would suddenly become like the kiddos from The Sound of Music and respond to whistles and sit down and get all of their work done with a big fat smile on their face, because that is not reality at all, okay? So let that go. There is no magic bullet to solving the struggle of gaining cooperation with your kiddos. I'm sorry to tell y'all, but you know what? What works today may not work tomorrow, may not work ever again. So my first tip to gaining cooperation with your kiddos is that you need to make sure that you have several different strategies in your arsenal of gaining this participation or cooperation with your kiddos. You need to be able to rotate through them, okay? To know them so that it is coming naturally as you are moving through a lesson or just a difficult situation, right? When that struggle appears. Now listen, if this is not something that comes naturally to you, then what you need to do is write it down. I'm serious. I actually learned this when doing speech therapy with my youngest kiddo. A lot of the strategies that we will discuss today, they might seem obvious to you, but you know what? Hearing them said by another person makes them seem real. Okay? And with speech therapy, one of the things that I did was write down reading strategies on like a really large Post-it note like this, and I would put it in the front of the books that I was going to be reading with my daughter, and they were just reminders of things for me to do. And whenever I was a teacher, we used to have to wear these IDs everywhere, and I actually wrote some of my strategies on the back of my ID so that I had it with me, so that when things started to kind of spiral or spin out of control, I wasn't caught up in that energy with my students, but instead I could step back, maintain some kind of classroom control, and reflect on what my strategies or my go-to routines were for whenever we started to see that participation slip. Listen, nobody is expecting you to be the perfect parent or the perfect teacher. So if you are having to, have some homeschool hacks, wink, wink, such as writing strategies down on Post-its for you to be able to see and remind yourself, then that's what you have to do, right? These are not going to be intrinsically known strategies that you can just bring forth from your being, at least at first. So once you're noticing some things that are working for you, or maybe tips that you get from this video, write them down. You got me? Okay. Let's move on to tip number 2. My second tip for gaining that cooperation with your kiddos is to try to build in rituals around the start of your workday, whatever that looks like for you guys. So for us, we are not wake up and go homeschoolers. My oldest is usually up an hour before anyone else, so she has a lot of independent time to do as she pleases. We then have breakfast together. I then need a moment to kind of focus, right? Bring my attention to the day. I can't just transition from breakfast into being a number 1 homeschool teacher extraordinaire. You guys, it takes a little bit of work to, get this good. So after breakfast, I clean up the kitchen, listen to my podcast, get focused for the day, and set up any table work that we're going to be doing that day in our homeschool. So I need a ritual, something that is going to be a smooth transition from my kiddo having a lot of free time, a lot of autonomy over what she's doing, to all of a sudden being asked to complete a specific task that she maybe hasn't had a say in, right, in terms of what we're going to be doing. We may just have a schedule and she needs to get some things done. So for us, that ritual has become a Julie Bogart favorite, and that of course is the lighting of a candle. So these are the things that we do to make that a little bit extra special, and maybe have some pre-bought buy-in to that cooperation element of homeschool. So at the turn of every season, we will usually go together, sometimes to like a TJ Maxx or a Home Goods or Target or wherever, and buy candles together, right? This is a fun moment. Winnie is sniffing all of the candles. We're laughing about the ones that stink really bad, and just having a good time in that first moment, right? I'm buying that cooperation days, hours, weeks before we ever sit down at that table. So this month's candle, chosen by Winnie May, is the Mrs. Meyer's Clean Day, and it's a little peppermint soy candle. First of all, look at how cute that is, right? And it has its little lid on it, and it smells like sweet little candy canes. And for those of us out there who aren't big candle fans, this is a soy candle made with essential oils. So hopefully you're not just inhaling carcinogens, right? So a couple of tips to make this more successful. We keep several different types of lighters, from the traditional like thumb on the wheel lighter to something that you might use to start a campfire, the big long stick kinds with the trigger, right? And that is what we begin our homeschool day with. I lay out all of our things. I ask Winnie to come to the table, and there she lights the candle. You guys, this started as a struggle, but something about the accomplishment of being able to light a candle generally starts her off on a really good foot for participating in whatever our lessons are those days. If you don't feel comfortable letting your kids have lighters, that's fine. I understand. But you know what? It was also an excellent opportunity for us to talk about fire safety, and I haven't had any issues. And plus, you know what? It's just cozy, y'all, especially as we're getting into this aforementioned horrible winter months. Having that nice little light as something to bring us around to the table feels nice. Okay, feels good. I will tell you, this strategy, I am having to work on it, because now PJ, the youngest kiddo, she likes to come over and blow out the candle. So then sometimes it starts this like cycle, right? But we get there eventually, and everybody feels nice and cozy and ready to do some schoolwork. Okay, so let's just say that like all that went really well and gained you 10, maybe 5 minutes of active cooperation and participation, but you're starting to notice that your child's attention is beginning to wane. That brings me to tip number 3. Ooh, girl, I just rhymed. All right, I'm gonna put that feather in my cap. So tip number 3 is to make sure that your child's basic needs are being met. Are they cold? Do they need a blanket? Would they like to snuggle? Are they hungry? Get them a snack. And you as the parent might know that this is total baloney because you just fed them 10 minutes ago. It doesn't matter. The kid might just need a way to express to you that they need a break, and that getting a snack is a really safe way to process through that. If it comes to snacks, a tip that I do have is to keep low calorie but satiating snacks on hand. So for us, that's going to look like pre-popped popcorn bags, yogurt, fruit strips, craisins, right? Nuts, things that they can kind of just chom on, and that I'm not worried that their sugar intake is going to be too high or anything like that. So I'm not super concerned about dishing those snacks out. Are they thirsty? Do they just need something to drink? Would they like a hot cup of tea, right? That's always one that gets some buy-in. I buy lots of flavors of tea. It's very cheap to do. And then I'm giving them that opportunity to sift through and decide for themselves what they want, which is shocking because my 7-year-old who loves unicorns and rainbows and all of that business, glitter. Oh, the girl loves some glitter. Her favorite flavor of tea is just a decaffeinated Earl Grey. Really, give her an English breakfast and she is good to go. One of the things that I've put onto her Christmas list this year is actually little tea steepers that look like animals, right? That can hang inside their teacups. How cute would that be? Offer them a drink, right? If they need to use the restroom, give them those few minutes to walk away from the table, stretch their legs, and they're probably going to come back with a little bit more buy-in, participation to whatever it is that you're doing. And you've also shown as a parent that you respect their needs, right? And you've also given them a way to get that break or opportunity without expressing it to you as something like, I hate school, okay? Save your feelings, folks. And part of those basic needs also includes, do they need a hug? All right? Because for our kiddos, even our older kiddos, that reassuring hand squeeze or rub on the shoulder or arm around the shoulders and a little hug is just something to let them know that you love them, okay? And that what you're trying to do is in their best interest and that the plan you've laid out is for them. That physical touch of reassurance can go such a long way. All right, my 4th tip, and this one comes all the way from my days in the good old public school system, and that is you need to switch modalities. How you are delivering information and what you're doing. Even when I worked with high schoolers, I knew that we needed to switch modality about every 15 minutes if I was going to ensure that engagement. Now, this transition of modality does not have to be dramatic. It's not like we went from read alouds to finger painting to going outside. That's not what I mean. These little shifts in modality can be small. Maybe you go from doing a read aloud to watching a YouTube video about the same subject, or maybe you introduce a new manipulative while you're doing those read alouds, and really time the release of these things or your transition in what you're doing based off of your observation of your child, right? One of the best things about homeschooling is that we are providing a completely personalized educational experience. Get to know your kiddos as students. If you can anticipate that their engagement level is beginning to deteriorate, then you can move swiftly into a new activity or a new way of delivering your information that's going to up that participation and cooperation. And part of that is, do you need to get moving? Does your kiddo need to start moving around? Maybe they need to go from sitting to standing. Maybe they need to fidget for a minute. Any of those things, just to get, you're getting that buy-in. You're getting back to work and back to business, and it's really taking such little amount of your day or your time to allow those transitions to be possible. Okay, that so naturally brings me to my fifth and final little nugget of wisdom as to how you can gain the participation of your kiddo in your homeschool, and that is to know when you guys need a break. We all have schedules, to-do lists, right? Mental deadlines, or sort of these little signposts that we're trying to get to with our kiddos. Maybe you're trying to move towards a curriculum or finish a certain subject by Christmas time. Whatever it is, we all have those things going on. But you know what? Sometimes that perfect plan is not going to just fall into place, and we need to be okay with that. And when the time comes that I feel like we're not getting the checks off of our list or moving like we should, I remind myself of what my ultimate goal is in homeschooling. And for me, that is to make sure that my kiddos love learning. All right. And I'm sure that so many of you guys have a very similar goal, and you need to reflect upon your ultimate goal and what you're trying to do. Because forcing engagement is in no way going to get me what I want. All right. As a matter of fact, it will probably create the exact opposite effect. But taking a break does not mean that your day is done. You have so many different options. But we know through scientific research, okay, that when kiddos or even adults become upset, that your brain, I'm going to term this for lack of a better word, is on fire. You're not going to be able to, not in a good way. This isn't like, and learning is engaged. No, this means that you are going to be stewing in those feelings, whatever chemical release you had from anger or depression or upset, that's going to be sitting on your brain. And it's going to take a while for that to drain off. And we know for kids that it's at least 1 minute for every year of their age. They're going to need that moment to decompress. And if you try to force through that, right? Like you've got everybody calmed back down, but you're not leaving that moment for those feelings and emotions to drain off, then you're not going to be getting the retention that you're looking for. You're just forcing engagement onto an already pretty rough situation. So these are my little tricks that will hopefully get you back on target, right? No matter how long that break is that you need to take, if it's 15 minutes, if it's half a day, whatever. These are my little tips for kind of trying to move past those sorts of upsets. And my first tip for that is that we go outside. Even if that means we're together or apart, we try to go outside and get some fresh air. For my family, being outside is a neutral place that we can all agree on. So whatever it is for your family, that's what you need to do. Something that everybody can say, this is an area that brings me peace, tranquility, allows me to get back to my settled self. And sometimes I'll even tell my daughter, hey, you know what? I can tell that you are just upset. You want to walk around the house 5 times, see how many mushrooms you can find. Something along those lines, giving them a task that will allow them to process their emotions and come back to the table ready and hopefully eager to work. I'll also give her a choice of activities. So, all right, I can see that handwriting is something you don't want to do today. Let's go to our day A or day B, because we're on a block schedule, buckets. What would you like to do out of these buckets? And maybe it's science, or maybe it's math, or they're just wanting to transition to a different activity, and that's okay. Allow that flexibility and know that you can always circle back to whatever it was you were thinking needed to be done that day. And you can also get out of the house. I don't know about you guys, but we spend a significant amount of time in our home because we are homeschoolers. And sometimes really, without even knowing it, we have this built up feeling of cabin fever, and we just need to get out and let that off. Even if that means that we're just going to, I don't know, drive and get an ice cream, or drive to a park and take a walk, or maybe we go to Target and we buy something silly, okay? I'm not talking major expenses. Maybe we're looking for new kinetic sand or something that is just allowing us to be neutral, away from our home, away from those expectations that sometimes the home can impress upon us if we are choosing to educate our children within those 4 walls. Okay, you guys, I am not making this video today because I feel as if I am some expert in these things. I'm making it because this past Tuesday, we had a terrible day, an awful day, a really bad day. But you know what? In my memory, reflecting upon it, I actually feel really proud of us as a family and of me as a homeschool mama. So for a minute, I just want to talk about Tuesday, okay? Tuesday for us started off like any other day. As a matter of fact, I thought it was even going to go better than any other day because we had two cardboard boxes, one for each kiddo. And I thought, man, they're going to have the best day decorating these boxes, making them into, I don't know, spaceships or whatever it is, and playing inside of them. And it started off like that, right? I thought, oh, we're going to get so much read aloud done today. Look at these little creative geniuses of mine. And then it went south. There was fighting over whose box was whose, fighting over, well, I wanted both of us to be in this box. Never mind, I changed my mind. Or then they're in a wagon and they're heading west, which was great. I thought, yeah, creative juices flowing here. But then there was upset because the tent equipment didn't fit into the wagon, and then they couldn't get the lid on the wagon. It was truly one thing after another, and the emotions were so high. I mean, just cradling my 3-year-old as she cries real tears because she is convinced that her sister's box is actually hers when it wasn't, okay? And trying to explain that to her. I'm talking huge emotions. And I kept thinking, I can fix this, right? So I kept trying to turn towards these grand gestures. Like, ooh, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to the basement. I'm gonna get our old-timey popcorn maker. We have one of those that sets over the stovetop and you crank it with your hand, right? And we're gonna pop popcorn. And then we're gonna watch a movie and we're gonna get right back on track. But dear my goodness, if that movie wasn't 5 minutes in and it was fights over who's gonna hold the popcorn bowl. So then everybody's gonna get their own popcorn bowl. But then there's fidgeting because the movie isn't fun or they don't like the movie. I'm just telling you, there wasn't as if there was one major event that just made this a stinker of a day. It was really just this series of small injuries towards one another that was really being met with huge emotions. And at about 1 o'clock, I just looked at myself and said, you know what? Forget it. We're letting this day go. And my daughter was like, well, what am I supposed to do? And I looked at her and I said, whatever you want to do within reason, right? I'm not going to let her leave the home on her own or anything. And she was just like, oh, well, I don't know what to do about that. And so, of course, she gets her Switch and starts to play Animal Crossing. The baby just wanted to watch Peppa Pig. And I just needed a moment. So I went upstairs and read. Okay. But you know what? At about 3 o'clock that afternoon, a friend of ours, another homeschooling friend, reached out and said, hey, we're going to the park. You guys want to go? And I jumped on that like no one's business. We ended up at the park and played and played and played and played. And I was telling this other homeschool mom about this day and woe is me, what can I do? And she said, you know what? A single bad day, a single bad moment is not a negative reflection on who you are as a person. It is not a negative reflection on your homeschool or your family for that matter. I don't know about y'all, but I internalize all of these struggles and I will overanalyze them to the point of no return. And I will always come to the same conclusion that everything is my fault, right? I'm going to take that upon my shoulders. That's not to say that you don't reflect on what happened in the day and try to come up with strategies to make things better. But what I am trying to say is that bad days are okay. And as a matter of fact, it is a guarantee that they are going to happen. So you need to make sure that you're prepared for that you move through your strategies and routines, and that when all else fails, you say, oh, you know what? This one was a bad one. You toss it to the dogs and you get ready for the next. You guys, we can do this. You can do this. So you know what? Is it perfect? No. And I'm going to cut the BS and the humor for a minute and tell you no. And it's never going to be. But is it done? Yeah, Tuesday is long done and gone. And now this video is as well. So I'm wishing all of you the most fabulous of homeschool weeks. Remember, you have strategies. There are things you can do to gain that cooperation, but we're gonna earn it, right? Right? Okay, until next time, bye!